Hola, welcome to MindBody TV. I'm Kim Duramo, and we are going to speak today about anxiety and how to actually resolve anxiety so you're no longer living in fear, which is false evidence appearing real. But this fear matrix gets patterned into the brain, patterned into the neural networks, patterned into your physiology. And so what you experience is fear. What you experience is if things are threatening. And that fear matrix will have everything look threatening. Like the way your partner looks at you, or what seems to be happening, or your bank account, or your body. You have a sensation in your body. Oh, fear. And then the thoughts that go with it. Is it cancer? Am I dying? And then the emotions, the feelings, the sensations that go with that matrix, that go with that idea. And that whole matrix of fear will appear to be true. It is, in fact, a lie. And how do we move beyond that? Right? There's really only one way. It might seem like there's lots of ways. It might seem like Xanax or behavioral therapy, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy, EFT tapping. Oh, let's get out of it. Let's fight fear. And that can temporarily give you a break. So you experience like it's a break, right? It's not actually peace. It's not actually freedom. It's just a temporary, conditional reprieve. And in truth, that reprieve, that break, will become more expensive over time, harder to get, more elusive, and less substantial. So I will share today about how to actually be free from the fear matrix. So welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. I'd love to hear where you're joining in from. I am in Mexico, and I am speaking Spanish. We're working with Spanish school. The kids are in Spanish school, and my friends and I are in Spanish tutoring. My husband is Puerto Rican, so he already has that nailed. But the other three of us are doing Spanish lessons, and it's awesome. So where are you tuning in from, and what has been your experience with anxiety or panic, even like anxiety attacks, and with fear, and even with depression, because these are often linked. Once our system becomes so depleted from operating in the fear matrix, we can go into a suppressive pattern, which can manifest as clinical anxiety, clinical depression. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm a physician who is sharing about mind-body medicine and how consciousness is what creates everything happening in our bodies and everything we experience in our lives. And our choice really is that we can subscribe to the fear matrix and stay in it, managing what comes up, managing, constantly running from the dragon and managing the dragon. Or we can exit the fear matrix. We can make a choice to live in truth. So if fear is false, I'm going to write it, false evidence appearing real, What does that mean? How does it show up? How does it keep hooking us back into that matrix, back into that delusion, back into, because the only power fear has is what we feed it. And so how does it keep hooking us to give it that energy, and keep it alive? And I shared yesterday in a forum about what my daughter mentioned. They were watching Monsters, Inc. She's watched it a dozen times, probably more than that. And she said, "Mom, do you hear what they just said?" So the monsters are trying to get the kids to scream. And if the kids like laugh at them, oh, cute little monster, they don't get power. They have to scare the kids. And in Monsters, Inc., they're all freaking out like, we aren't going to exist anymore. We have no power. We have to get more screams. And Gemma, for the first time, realized the underlying message. She said, the monsters said, we can't stay alive without the screams. She said, Mom, they're saying that the darkness has no power unless they get us into fear. And I said, that's great that you're seeing this. I said, now you're starting to watch movies and see movies the way your mama sees movies. Because since I was really young, I'd see the deeper messages, especially in movies. They're everywhere. And if we really are listening, everything is very evident. And so anyway, this premise of the false evidence, the fake matrix, it can only stay alive and keep you hooked as you keep feeding it, right? And so how do we feed it? Every time you have the inspiration, oh, I could do this. And then you go, oh yeah, but I should do this instead. You're subscribing back to the matrix. You're giving it your power. And since you are a creative being, what gets created? That false matrix over and over and over again. It takes courage to begin to follow our knowing, our nature, which is peace, over the matrix, which looks real, what we see, what we think, what we hear, what we touch, what we feel. As soon as I ask someone to drop into the body, right, which is where our power exists, it can only exist in the now, and the body only lives in the now. So it's a portal for you to access your power. But as soon as I ask people to drop in, they're going to feel what they were previously avoiding. And one of the biggest things that comes up as you drop in and really start to feel the body, presence the body, instead of avoid, is fear. You're going to feel that fear that you've been running from. And so it's really about developing the presence to be with what's here, to be with fear, instead of avoiding fear. Every time you avoid fear, you run from it, you escape from it, you're feeding that dragon. You're feeding that false matrix. You're keeping it alive. So it's a choice. Will I let what's coming up in the moment be an opportunity for me to transmute fear? Or will I let what's happening in the moment be one more reason to run from it? Jerry said, all life's questions are answered at the movies. Exactly the same for me, Heidi. I'm ready to exit this matrix. I thought I had heart palpitations, but was afraid to go for a CAT scan. So what happens when we're in that fear pattern? What happens in the brain? The brain goes into a hyper-vigilant, hyper-focused state of attention, meaning you're not looking for, what's the big picture of what will really create the most prosperity in my life? No, you're looking for, where's the tree? How do I run to the next tree? How do I escape? Right? Very, very focused thinking. Your nervous system goes into bells and whistles, fight or flight, alarm, there's a threat. right? All the energy is resource, right? Your adrenals are like, give you lots of energy to run from the tiger. And you go into the sympathetic nervous system. So lots of adrenaline, your heart is racing faster, the heart is more irritable. So you can have even people developing arrhythmias who are in a chronic fight or flight pattern. All diseases, inflammatory diseases, chronic illnesses most people are dying from, stem from this underlying fight or flight pattern being turned on in a chronic state. It's meant to be turned off in 20 seconds, right? You run from the tiger, you're in the tree. Oh, here I am. And you come back, you restore peace. But what happens now for most in our society is that tiger is like your boss or your mother or your child or a phone call. Or a not phone call, right? Or no, he didn't text me. Everything gets perceived as a threat because of association, right? We're associating, oh, that person didn't text me. It must mean this. We're associating it with a threat. And so if you look back to like, what's actually happening? Oh, this thing happened and my body went into this state because I think I'm threatened. You always want to look at, well, what would the threat be? And it's going to be like, oh, I'll fail. I'll lose my job. I'll have no money. I won't be able to feed myself. I'll be homeless on the street and then I'll die. But actually what most people, it's not just dying. That's badness. But the really bad thing that triggers the heck out of people is I'll fail. I'll lose all my money. I'll be made a fool of, and people will see I'm a total loser. So it's shame that we're avoiding so intensely. Running. So I'll never have to be seen as what I fear I really am. I'll never be seen as a failure. I'll make sure they know I'm taking care of business, right? It's a fear of being judged, being ostracized. It's a major fear. In fact, most people would rather die than do public speaking. You're like, oh, I want to speak in front of all these people. They get clammy, they get sweaty, they go into the stress response. It's like, I'd rather die than have that. Well, what is that? It's the fear of being seen. And so how do we shift out of that? And I do want to introduce an offer where we've created the MindBody solution for anxiety and depression to bring you through a very deep journey of repatterning the nervous system. And it is not just a cognitive behavioral therapy, right? It's a deep below the level of the subconscious and unconscious. And we are accessing the source that creates your body. So you're not doing the fixing. You're not doing the rewiring. Like that would be just a lot of work. And it'd sort of just be another management tool to help you manage the programming and the patterns. And the MindBody solution for anxiety and depression, because we added a whole other section last year or the year before, we added a whole other section for repatterning that depressive state, which is like the total shutdown in the system, is really a journey to a whole new embodiment. And in that program, you're allowing major shifts and changes to be generated in your system, in your brain, in your nervous system, in your electromagnetics, in who you're being. You don't need to be the small self who's powerless, separate, and threatened. You can be, meaning feel, sense, and live as the true self, the one who is sovereign, the one who is sourced. Just like, you have food and water and like the earth is providing, life is providing, there are also healing opportunities, creative thoughts, right? Because you could live in the frequency and consciousness brain state and neurologic state of prosperity. What would create the greatest prosperity for me today? And if you live in that question, right, living in the question just means you're asking the question and you're staying open and receptive to the frequency of the question, right? Doesn't mean you answer the question, because how are you going to answer that? What's the meaning of life? Well, I think you're going to answer it from the small self, from the mind, from the programming. That's not going to get you anywhere. The key is to open into the frequency of the question. What would create the most prosperity and expansion in my life today? And as soon as you ask that question, do you see how like you'd have to soften your body to be in the frequency and consciousness of that question? And what most people do is they tense into answering it. Okay, what if I did this? And what if I did that? That's the programming, right? The programming is going to keep your body in tension. It's going to keep your brain in small-mindedness, focus, not big picture, expansive awareness. It's going to keep your nervous system in fight or flight, sympathetic nervous system, running the adrenals. And it's going to keep your physiology in inflammation. So the only way we can receive something here is to be that space, right? So soft body, curious mind, open, receptive. It's a challenge to be receptive when we're in fear. But we're going to practice it anyway. And so in today's broadcast, I'll give you this basic tool. And in the MindBody solution for anxiety and depression, which is a much more advanced journey into this, there are many tools, and I guide you over 4 weeks, week by week, by week by week, to a new integration in your nervous system. And I will share the link for that for those of you who do want to move into that. We just started Embracing Health. So I'm going to be working with amazing people, amazing group of people starting tomorrow. It's our first live call on this journey, guiding them through this year-long journey. But for those who would like, a DIY version, home study version, I'm going to share the link for this. And I'll put it in the comments here. It's drkimd.com/anxiety. Okay. Same for me. All Grand Canyon 1992. Woohoo. Cassia, through our work in Embracing Health, I uncovered the energy of fear that has been the root cause behind my symptoms and diagnosis. I'm grateful for this insight. So we had a lot of people come through the MindBody solution for anxiety, get off anti-anxiety medications, get off antidepressant medications. For many, there were both. There were multiple anti-anxiety, multiple antidepressant medications. When you restore a new alignment in your nervous system, you don't need those management tools. And many people were able to come off of those. I do not recommend doing that without guidance from the professional who put you on, especially with antidepressant medications, because your serotonin levels can shift very frequently if you were to stop them right away, and you may not be fully equipped to manage that on your own. How do you deal with the fear of loss, death, and grief? So like any of these energies, embodiment and breath will allow you to move through them. Suppression and avoidance has you just escape them, but the energy is still here. It's like, I'm waiting for you. And then we think it's going to devour us. So we think the only option is to continue to avoid. We haven't learned that we can embody. And with breath, embodiment and breath allows transmutation, meaning you transmute that grief and you cultivate more love. If anyone's ever gone through a deep loss, and moved through the process of grief, you find there is a deeper capacity for love and compassion universally. You find that you become a different being as a result, a being more capable of deep presence and compassion. And the truth is that the only real value we bring to life, it's not our education, our training, or money. It's our ability to presence the moment with willingness. Our ability to presence the moment and listen. Because if we are infinitely sourced and guided, infinitely, wouldn't it be the ultimate return on investment to learn how to listen to that? To learn how to be a more present and receptive being. So when we move into the embodiment, which is a big part of the mind-body solution for anxiety and depression, is embodiments. We use a lot of the instant elevation, right? You bring your energy back from the future you're trying to avoid, from the past you're trying to not recreate, from outside of you. What will they think? Projection. And from identity. I put these, for me, they're in like 4 quadrants. The future is like off over here. The past is over there. Other people are outside in front of me. And then the identity is right there behind me, as if this is who I am. And I said there are 4 weeks in that program. In the first week, you are cultivating, pulling your energy back. We'll do some of this right now. And so if your body can only live in the now, it can't live in the future, it can't live in the projected past, it can't project itself into other people, you can only be in this I am. And it doesn't truly carry identity, right? Just as someone who's lost their job, do you still exist? You're not a computer programmer anymore. Do you still exist? Oh, I do still exist, actually, without that identity. So if something falls away, you're married and now you're not married. Do you still exist? So if you say, who are you? Oh, I'm a mother, or I'm a this, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a however old you are. All of those things change, right? I'm single, I'm married. Those things change. So are they actually who you are? Who would I be without these definitions and identities? I'd actually be more free. Doesn't mean you don't embody those. Great, but don't think that you are those, because it can keep you in jail. And so as soon as we come into the body, which can only live in the now, we drop those. So just feel your heart and take a few deep breaths. And you could even tap on the heart just to get some attention there. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And let yourself breathe in and out. If you'd like to close your eyes, that can be really helpful. Or just place your hand over your heart. Relax your shoulders and breathe. Witness your breathing. Witness any thoughts that may be present. Witness sensation, like your bum on the seat or tightness in your shoulders. And if you can, witness any emotion. Is there emotion here? Is there a trepidation? Is there a speeding up? Come on, get to the point. What are you going to do? Is there a challenge when you just will be still? Is there stuff that arises you didn't want to look at when you choose stillness? And know for me, this used to be excruciating. So bring compassion. And let the breath come all the way into the belly. Who would I be without this fear? So feel, is there fear there? Is there a speeding up? Is there an anxiety? The need to get to the next thing? The discomfort with this moment as it is? Just notice that and breathe. And then let everything go in the exhales. Who would I be without this thought? Who would I be without this sensation? Can I just welcome this sensation? So try it on for a moment. Just breathe it in, whatever you're feeling, whatever is here. Welcome it instead of running to avoid it. When we live in fight or flight, we will never know truth. We'll never choose from guidance. So we just stay busy, but not necessarily getting anywhere. What if I could respond instead of react? When we are present, we never ignore the needs of the body. So you can let go of that idea and that fear. If I'm not hypervigilant, something will go, wrong and I won't even notice it. It's a lie. When you're more present, you are more clear on what's needed and more capable of meeting those needs. So breathe in and breathe out. Feel the sensations. Feel what's here. Are there emotions? It's just energy. It doesn't mean what the mind makes it mean. It's just energy. Breathe through them so that energy can move and the truth can show up. Five breaths, just breathing in this now moment to bring yourself here, your presence here, your awareness here. The body is always here, so you can always just physically touch the body, bring your hand to your heart, breathe the body and bring your attention to the body. This gets you here. And you can open your eyes when you're ready and share what that was like. Some things that will happen when we do this are, wow, I feel more grounded and light. Number 2, I feel awful. That was really a negative experience. There's so much fear here I didn't even know. Or 3, I felt nothing. I did it wrong. I need to understand it. I need to understand more. And you got to tell me how to do it, which is avoidance. Notice whichever came up. Also in that third category, nothing. I felt nothing. And that nothing is usually just a product of the numbness you've been in, where you've trained your brain not to pay attention to what you're sensing in the now. Or it's a protection where we've learned to avoid sensation as a protective mechanism. And both of these are working against us. So it's okay to notice. Oh, that's a pattern I'm in. Okay. Because awareness is a much higher frequency than resistance. What if we are autistic, getting overwhelmed? All brains are responsive to nature. Our nature is to breathe in flow. All we're doing here is softening the body so there's greater flow. This will be healing universally. I have a fear of being alone and a fear of making decisions. Just constant fear. Good. It's so good to notice, wow, there's constant fear. So bring more presence and breath. And so you can say, bring constant presence, but that would be a lot to reach for. Most people have a challenge staying present for even 12 seconds. So you can practice. You can make a 5-minute container and set your alarm. Put your hand on your heart and just intend to witness your breath for 5 minutes until the alarm goes off. You will do the best you can. And at the alarm goes off, you let go of the practice and do it again later on again, right? You could do it twice a day. You will begin to deepen your presence. And just let yourself do the practice. Turn on for 5 minutes. Intend to focus on your breath and sensation, and something will happen. You don't need to micromanage what happens. Feelings are real, but not necessarily true. Yes, someone in Facebook, I was in therapy and taught something amazing. Feelings are real, but not necessarily true. Yes, so there is a sensation, but what I'm making it mean is a story. So there's a sensation. Oh, my heart is racing. There's a sensation. Oh, it's uncomfortable to sit and be soft and not run. There's a sensation, a stirring in my belly, a fluttering. Good, so I can observe that and it will shift. And the message that's under it can be heard. Fear is a sign that clues you into the idea something needs to change. So it can be a cue signal. The best thing to do is be curious about it. What is it trying to tell me? Yes, and in fact, as we share in the MindBody solution for anxiety and depression, fear is actually a response to change, right? So you see little wrestling in the bush. Is it a bear that's about to eat me? It's the body's response mechanism to change. Or, oh my God, I lost my job. What am I going to do, right? And so what if we get into receptivity with change? Life is founded on constant change. What if I get in flow with change and get in a new relationship with change and with what's happening? That's what repatterns the nervous system. That's what allows a whole new inner alignment and inner experience. What if, how is fatigue handled? Do we do what the fatigue says, which is rest? So I would not do what the programs are saying, because the fatigue is going to say, oh, or what your brain and mind is going to say, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. Like the reactivity is going to tell you one thing, and the truth may tell you something very different. And so if there's fatigue and I get present and I deepen this process, which is exactly what we're doing in our year together in Embracing Health, which is exactly what you could do on your own in the MindBody Solution for Anxiety and Depression program. You can bring yourself through this journey. Is you're deepening your ability to presence the moment so you witness the truth. Will rest be restorative for me right now? And it could be ding, 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 ding. So yes, right? But if you're listening from fear, it's not going to tell you the truth. Who knows what's the truth? You can't know when you're in fight or flight. You cannot know. You cannot hear guidance. You cannot hear wisdom. You cannot hear truth. And so the fatigue's like, I'm so overwhelmed. Okay, let me rest. Let me just get more rest. And that may or may not be truly restorative. So if you pause for a moment, receive that fatigue, which a lot of times, especially with people with chronic fatigue syndrome, will feel a sense of deep heaviness, sometimes a sense of oppression. And you witness and receive that moment, you start transmuting the energy immediately. And you may have the awareness that being in stillness, laying down, pulling all of your energy in, will transmute more of it and allow it to dissipate completely. You may have the awareness, some movement or a walk would be the best way to let that reboot happen. You may have awareness that, like, get out of your computer, get off technology for 12 hours. You could have it. It could be anything. But if you aren't present, you will miss it. Kimberly, every morning I awaken with a start, like a feeling of panic for no apparent reason. Actually, this is one of the main things we addressed in the MindBody Solution for Anxiety, because I had been working with someone who had that waking up in the morning with like a really big a flush of the So there's a part of the brain called the reticular activating system that ignites to wake you up. And it will trigger a hormonal response and an adrenaline response and certain, responses in the body to bring you to a more alert state. Is it over triggering you? How does that get received? How does that get registered? Is your body receptive to this? And so I read into her system and shared this in the program to teach a lot about why that happens and how to shift that. Because when I worked with this person, I realized this was very universal and it was happening for many, many others as well. And that when change happens really quickly, which it is right now, if you haven't noticed, like the whole world is changing so fast. If you look at like my grandmother's lifetime, it went from like, you can't, there's airplanes didn't even exist to like you're instantaneously communicating with someone in real time in China, right? That's a very fast change over decades and decades and decades. Right now, the way things are shifting is within minutes. It's a very fast shift, and it's a lot for the nervous system to register. So if there's a lot of resistance in the nervous system and you're living in the fear matrix, that is going to be very overstimulating to your physical body. And so I guide you through how to shift out of the fear matrix so your body can be in the waking state in a much more harmonious way. I feel confident that applying your tools will calm my nervous system over time. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Kimberly. But what people a lot of times do is they get on Xanax, or they have to take all kinds of herbs, or they're trying to physically counter that, but they haven't allowed the true shift within, which is really what lets everything change physically, mentally, emotionally, hormonally. I also want to state, as far as EFT, because I know there's a lot of people who love EFT. I love EFT, but the way we apply it must be in a way that nurtures the system. When we do EFT to get rid of a problem, kind of like still feeding the dragon. When we do EFT to nurture the system and the healing response, it will resolve that anxiety problem or those neural networks or those patterns or those, hyperadrenal, adrenal fatigue syndrome. Like it can actually resolve those neurologic and hormonal patterns. And so in the Mind Body Solution for Anxiety, there's a whole section on how to use EFT very specifically with what's coming up for you, but to use it in a way that nurtures your system's healing capacity, as opposed to using it in a way to kill the problem. I need the direct help, but not sure I can afford. So this is really a big thing, because the dragon's going to always keep you in lack. And so just soften your body. If I'm infinitely resourced, what would it take for me to easily receive everything required here? Stay in the frequency of the question, right? Don't go into the programming of, but you don't understand. Stay in the frequency of the question. There's going to be a million ways it can hook you back in, and you just get curious about that. Oh, it's trying to make me feel so uncomfortable that I'm going to fight this, or it's trying to make me really believe I really don't have what I need. The reason we made these home study programs is they're a way lower investment for way more people to take advantage of. The book is sort of like the lowest tier of where we offer these tools. So use the book, drkimd.com/book, but do it in a devoted way, right? Not like, oh, well, if I really had enough money, someone will be walking me through this. No, show up to the page you are on now. Here I am with this resource. Let me receive it fully, because you can have a massive awakening in one moment of deep, devoted presence. Watch and see. Be curious. Without the shame, I feel like I'll do the wrong thing that I'm afraid of. Yep. So it's good to see that. Will I keep letting that lead and drive the car? Well, maybe just put it in the back seat and I choose to drive the car, right? The presence of the I am that lives through me is in the driver's seat, noticing the one who believes I'll do the wrong thing. I have to stay ashamed or I'll do the wrong thing. So the really great way to approach this, is this true? And if we're really in the mind, you're like, I don't know. Is this true? Usually it's like, wow, it's not even true. But if you're really in the mind, you need the second prompt, which is, can I absolutely know for absolutely certain, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that this is true? Byron Katie's questions here are very useful for pretty much everything. Can I absolutely know beyond any shadow of a doubt? This is completely and utterly true 100% of the time. Usually then you can get to the clarity. No. Okay, what if the opposite were true? What if that freeing myself is what would create the most? Feeling more aware of my anxiety and fear. Yes. So it's actually a higher frequency to be aware of the anxiety and fear than to be unaware of it. It's there anyway. You didn't just get present, and because you were present, it showed up. It's already there. It's already running your system. It's already overrunning your adrenals. It's already taxing your thyroid. It's already disrupting your digestion. It's already destroying your health. It's already creating inflammation. You're just like, no, I'm good. It's all good. And then you go to work, make sure to outrun the dragon, versus, oh my God, there's so much fear. Now who's in the driver's seat? Observation. There's more power in your system already. It will feel more scary, but it's actually more power. And so that's why I created the program, because it brings you step by step through this journey. Because if I just tell you this and you're like, oh, just presence my fear, it's for a lot of people, like, you're just going to go running from it because it's going to bring up so much. So use the tools, use the guidance, and use whatever is fluid for you. If the book is fluid, I have videos on YouTube. And if investing in a substantial commitment to come into a container like the MindBody solution for anxiety and depression, schedule once a week to show up for this major shift. It is at the deepest foundational levels of your being. So everything about who you are can change and will change when you show up. Chest pain afterwards, lots of chest pain, and afterwards shoulders a bit softer. So sometimes we'll transmute a little bit of it. Like, you get present, just do 3 breaths. Let your belly relax. Notice what happens. Thank your body, right? It's moving, a lot of energy. When we sit to breathe for 5 minutes, do we breathe into the belly or heart area? So relax the belly so the breath can come all the way down into the pelvis. And you can bring your attention to your heart. Don't get too stuck in the right and wrong. Just relax your shoulders. Your breath will automatically come more fully into the belly when you do that. And it'll be easier to presence your heart. I felt uncomfortable in my body, and with the breath, I became settled and comfortable. Good, Victoria. I wake up every night and cannot go back to sleep unless I take sleeping pills. Yeah, this is what the person I had worked with, there are a lot of people I worked with, and it kind of became this big conglomerate of everything we put into the program. But this was one of the major ones. It's like waking up in the middle of the night with that severe anxiety, panic. And when I read into what is happening in the system there and what would we need in order to resolve that, that's what I put into the program. I know, sweet girl, it is super scary. Panic is so strong in my chest. Find compassion for yourself and the one who's having that experience. The knowing does come in eventually, Peter. My body told me to stop washing my hair and only use water, and I'm starting to see more and more hairs, like growing your hair back. The knowing does come in eventually. Well, when the presence comes in, the knowing comes in immediately. It's that, like, the presence came in eventually. Like, eventually I got myself here enough to listen. But the broadcast is already here. It's not that it'll eventually show up. It's that with my own practice, I'm eventually showing up, that I can hear it. All right, I love you guys. Oh, would the chronic fatigue program be best for chronic fatigue or the one you mentioned for anxiety? So they're all sort of meant to be done sequentially, and they're all really, really useful together, but you can start with the one that most resonates. So if you've got severe chronic fatigue, the MindBody solution for chronic fatigue can be an awesome one to dig into as a starting place. And any of these can do the whole completion for you. And if you want to start with the MindBody solution for anxiety, if there's so much fear and anxiety and you're ready to really ground and transmute that, that would be a great one to start with. And then the third one is the MindBody solution for pain. So you could take the quiz and it'll kind of give you the good starting point. It's at drkimd.com/start-here, or just go to drkimd.com and click on the button that says start here. And so have fun with this. Like, one of these can literally change the whole course of your entire being. And everything we do in the Embracing Health program includes and goes beyond all of these, but we did put like the major chunks of these into these programs so people could have access to this work in a home study format. So yeah, if you've got severe chronic fatigue, the chronic fatigue resolution program would be the best place to start for you. drkimd.com/CF. I guess I'll put that in the drkimd.com. CF. That can be helpful. I can't know without a shadow of a doubt. It's probably opposite, because at least in that way you undo the pressure. Yes, can't know beyond a shadow of a doubt. What the heck do we know? We know nothing, but we can receive everything. All right, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. For everyone embracing health, we'll have a really powerful call tomorrow for our starting call, our first call of the year. And I will be back for MindBody TV next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, live in the MindBody community in Facebook and at the Dr. Kim Duramo YouTube channel if you'd like to join me there live. My site is drkimd.com. It can be really helpful to take the quick quiz, get a sense for which one would be most potent for you to begin with, and start that journey of your home study mind-body miracle. All right, I love you guys. Heidi, I can too. I'm looking forward to that call as well, and I'm feeling into the group and what this group is about and what is in store for all of us this month. So yes, Patrice, I would start with the quiz, but I think for you, it's very, very clear that the MindBody solution for anxiety will be a very, very strong and fruitful starting point for you. So again, it's at drkimd.com/anxiety. Yes, you can receive that, and I will see you in the group. All right, lots of love, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Thank you to those listening to the recording. Be sure to subscribe at drkimd.com, subscribe in YouTube, and join us in the MindBody community in Facebook, where our mentors are standing by to answer questions and assist you in integrating these home study programs so you have some guidance as you go through the journey with this program. All right, lots of love. Keep breathing. Keep those shoulders relaxed. Find your flow. Bye. See you soon.